Radijski misijon 2021.
Bili so skupaj.
Spoštovani gledalci, lepo pozdravljeni v našem 16. radijskem misijonu, v katerem bomo gostili tudi gospoda Otta Neubauerja iz Dunaja. Je vodja Akademije za dialog in novo evangelizacijo, kjer sodelavci razvija čisto nov način, novo kulturo dialoga. Ljudi vabijo, da stopijo iz lastnih balonov in balkonov in pravijo, da srečanja iz oči v oči delajo čudeže. Gospod Otto, lepo pozdravljeni. Hvala vam, da ste pristali na sodelovanje, tako kot mnogi drugi misijonarji letošnjega radijskega misijona, in boste v svojem malem nagovoru spregovorili našemu občinstvu. V tem posebnem korona času boste spregovorili o veri v enega Boga, ki ga še vedno skrbi za svoj svet. Prosim.
So the question is, how can we live a Christian mission in Corona time? And that means for me, I'll be living in the one God who still cares for the world. The mission we have as Christians at all times is to gather the whole human family as God's family, so that all, without any exception, may find their way home into their Father's house. That means being together at home where we are all loved. It is about overcoming the distances, that everyone comes close at home. The mission is not at all about an effective elite. Christians are the first to build alliances through meekness, tenderness, and mercy. This is what Pope Francis calls for very urgently. And that also applies to the Corona period, and even especially so. But even before Corona, we had a special problem. There is a tendency of wanting to stay amongst ourselves in a small inner circle, looking down on the others. And this often happens on social networks. But we cannot evangelize from the balcony, says Pope Francis, not from above, from a far distance. Like the close friends of Jesus, we should be called friends of tax collectors and sinners, it said in Matthew 11:19. And at the same time, each real encounter, each authentic accompaniment will also show us our own misery and fragility. For example, during the first lockdown in the last days of March 2020, as this crazy virus started to find its way in the world's headlines, I received a terrible message from a friend who is an atheist. He had lost his only son, 20 years old. No, not to COVID-19. It was an accident and a really complicated story with drugs and so on. After a certain period of shock, I was brave enough to call my friend. And he asked me to go for a walk with him. And I have to confess, I was very anxious. It seemed like the world stood still as we walked next each to other in the streets of an eerily quiet city in this special Corona period. Deeply moved, I listened to him as he was trying to put his unbelievable suffering into words. And while walking together, I could only do one thing: ask quietly for God's Spirit, for right words, and especially for the right way to listen. I felt very poor, but at the end of our walk, I felt a very strong and very comforting presence that transcended all that we could be humanly understood and grasped. As I looked into my friend's face, into his eyes, I suddenly felt a sort of inner conviction. Yes, he is really here. He, the Lord himself. I tried to tell then my friend that I completely trusted that his son was safe now. I will never forget his gaze at that moment, the repeated pausing, and finally the slow response. I know that you believe that. Thank you. As if the heart will say, as if the heart would like to say more than words ever could. And at that moment, I felt a very deep closeness and unity. This story of my friend I have shared, the pandemic of our days, but also the fate of every single individual shows us that we are all in the same boat or in the same sea. We are very closely linked to the human family. And the Lord has seen the gazes of the wounded. As Christians, we have to follow these gazes of the wounded. We are invited to think of those who have lost something these days that they will never get back. Family members, friends, maybe a job or an economic foundation. And not only in the context of Corona. Let's take the wounded with us on our path, so that this path may lead us into a new and much deeper community with this world. As if the Lord was saying to us in the middle of this crisis, wind down and look around. And if you are ready, walk a part of the way with someone, because I am present in them. While reflecting on all that, the words of the often quoted book, Introduction to Christianity, by the later Pope Benedict XVI, comes to my mind again. And there is said, Jesus has established a perfect community of faith with the lost. His mission, the mission of Christ, is entering in the drama of human existence. And this is the true holiness of God, which is love. A love that doesn't shy away from the dirt of the world, but mixes with the dirt in order to overcome it. These are words from Pope Benedict XVI. We are mixed with the dirt and in order to overcome it. Can the holiness of the church be something other than carrying each other? Because we are all carried by Jesus Christ. Pope Francis recently said, are we able to weep with Jesus as he is weeping now? Yes, we have to wind down, because our spiritual and liturgical formats must not be nobly detached from the care for the wounded of our time. It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick, says Jesus in reaction to being criticized for his many inappropriate friends. It said in Luke 5:31, do we really care for the world? Are the wounded, the deserted and outsiders really present in our prayers? Do we really strive to stand up for the world? When was the last time we called someone who is alone or who may have lost their job? Through the Spirit, It means through the prayer, through the Holy Spirit, we must learn anew today to become all things to all. Like St. Paul said, see in 1 Corinthians 9:22. We have to become all things to all, a Jew for Jews, an outlaw for the outlaws, a meek for the meek. And this amazing transformation from a fearful distance to a miraculous and healing proximity happens to the disciples, to us, if we want to be real Christians. And this is especially true when we have to keep a physical distance. Today, we are witnessing more and more violence through words. Words that make the other person look bad, that condemn him or her. And condemning words immediately create distance. We need to take this very seriously, how much these condemning arguments, especially in the social networks, poison our souls. There's a lot of aggression in the air. And unfortunately, many of us Christians and Catholics take part. Sometimes with the good intention of defending our faith. But Jesus explained to the teachers of the law why he lets sinners get so close to him and he doesn't condemn them. It said, but he who has been forgiven little loves little. I repeat it. But he who has forgiven little loves little. This is the way of healing. And that needs patience. So that's why we try to reduce the distances by reaching out precisely to those who think differently from us, who think that they are far away from us. We have to try to build bridges. In Vienna, we have invited these people in recent years whom we experience far away from us, in cafes and bars, cultural centers. And we wanted to get to know them, and have public dialogues, meetings about God and the world. We can say hospitality instead of hostility. Hospitality instead of hostility. So, Saint Ignatius of Loyola said, to save rather than condemn the opinion of the others. To save rather than condemn. But this is a learning process for us. That is not about winning against the other, but winning together. Not to overwhelm the others, not to defeat, but to find a way to discover the truth together. Of course, we have to share what we believe. That's a treasure. But share it like a gift of love, not like a product or a possession. So, there is a lot to do. And not everyone has the power to do it. But now is the great time for us Christians. In this time of fragmentation and polarization, we have to form alliances, to build community, to serve unintentionally, spiritually, humanly, and socially. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Otto, for your words, although on distance, but as you said, we are all in the same boat, all in the same sea. Thank you very much, and all the best.
You're welcome.
To your academy, and nice greetings to Vienna.
And greetings to Slovenia. They are in our heart. Not only neighbors, but really brothers and sisters and friends. Thank you so much.
Radijski misijon 2021.
Bili so skupaj.